All right. Well, thank you, everyone. For those that I haven't met, my name's Alan Brady. I'm the head of school at EAB in my fourth year here in Brasilia. I've been a head of school now. This is year 16. I've worked in the U.S., of course, and then in Singapore, Nepal, and Tunisia before coming to Brazil. So let's go ahead and advance. So I will try to talk slowly so that the translation can take place. But first of all, I'd just like to welcome you to this webinar. I know that there's a lot of interest and concern about how we will operate the school this year. And so I'd like to, speak generally about the school year for you. And then Leslie will talk about the distance learning that we will start in at least the first 3 weeks with. And then Liz Sullivan will talk about the school's financial picture, as well as our facilities preparations for when we do begin returning to school. So first of all, we'd like to say that we will prioritize the health, safety, and well-being of our students, parents, and staff over all other objectives. And when we do return to physical presence on campus, we will try to make it as safe as possible for your students, and then ultimately you, and of course our staff. So first of all, we understand how difficult it is to be locked down at home for months. We've been in that mode as well, and we want you to know that we're aware of the challenges of that. We also are aware how difficult it can be to keep your children engaged in learning from home, and we want to partner with you, and I'll say a little more about that in just a few minutes. We especially understand how challenging and difficult it is to have to go to work and have your children at home and to try to manage those things. We understand that distance learning is not the same as face-to-face learning, and our objective is to return to face-to-face learning as soon as we can do so safely. We also are aware that our parents have a variety of opinions about the school reopening. We've heard from you. We know there are families that want us to open fully face-to-face even now, and are willing to take those risks. We know others would like us to open on a blended model even now. And we know that a large number of our families do not feel it's safe to return to face-to-face. So we understand the variety of opinions in the community, and we're taking those into account. So we are prepared for 3 learning approaches as we face this year. We're prepared for distance learning, and Leslie will be talking about what that will look like and how it will be different from the distance learning that we operated under from March to June. We went into that distance learning mode with just a few days to make that transition when the governor called for schools to close in the federal district. So Leslie will talk about what changes will be in store. We are also ready when it's safe to do so, to have a blended learning approach, or a hybrid model, some schools are calling, where we would bring back initially younger students, and then half of our students for 1 week with the other half still on distance learning, and swap that for the alternating week. And Liz will explain the various measures that we've prepared to do that safely. And then ultimately, we'd like to see this pandemic over and that we can return to full face-to-face learning, which is certainly our preference. We'd like you to know that we are committed to excellence in all three of those modes of teaching and learning. Whichever mode we're in, we will do our very best. We've got great people to take it forward. We've got good technology, and we've got good resources. I'll talk about some of our networks. We've been fortunate that many of our other counterpart schools around the world have been through this before we did. And we've learned a great deal from our networking. We are committed to student growth, as you've heard me say many times, and we will be able to measure it this year. And personalized learning, we will be able to use the measures of academic progress. They have done some modifications so that we can do it via distance learning if we want. And that way we'll get some data, the personalized learning. We are very proud of the growth that we've achieved. You know, typical schools get growth at the 50th percentile, with half of students reaching their growth target and the other half not. We have gotten our best growth in the last year. We were up right at 70th percentile in all three areas. Our IB scores were the highest we've ever had. Our SAT scores the highest we've ever had. And we are committed to maximizing your students' growth in whatever mode of teaching and learning we're in. And we are committed to keeping students engaged and providing support as needed. We've got student support teachers, teaching assistants, ELL teachers, and counselors, and we will reach out to you if we see that your student is missing some teaching and learning. And you are more than welcome to reach out to us if we can assist you in that process. We know how difficult that can be. And again, we're committed to partnering with you. Education works best when the student, the parent, and the school work together to make it most effective. And again, we're committed to the health and safety of the students you put in our care, to you, our parents, and to our staff. And then we will commit that we will ensure that our teaching and learning programs are aligned to our mission and vision in whatever mode we're operating. You've likely heard me say this, if you've heard me speak previously, that the key ingredient in the quality of a school is the quality of the teachers. And we have really outstanding teachers. We take our recruiting and retention as our highest priority. Our teachers have an average of 12 years of experience. Over 70% of them have graduate degrees, and they have records of getting success with the students in their care. We have the highest percentage of overseas hires of any of the schools, of the American schools in Brazil, even above graded, which is second to us in that capacity. And again, as you'll hear from Leslie, we learned a great deal from the distance learning work we did in March to June. And we have a wealth of networks to borrow from, to ask questions of, and this is just a list of some of the bigger ones here. We are part of the Association of American Schools in South America. We communicate with ASA at least weekly. We are a member of the Association of American Schools in Brazil, and I hear from those schools daily on WhatsApp. We are a member of the National Association of Independent Schools in the US, and we have a great deal of resources from them. And then for our broader international networks, we're a member of the Association for the Advancement of International Education around the world, and also the Association of International School Heads. Liz is active in the National Business Office Association. We are assisted by the Office of Overseas Schools, which is the education arm of the US State Department. And then we have convened a coronavirus task force of EAB parents that we get information from. So who makes decisions as far as the school mode that we're in? Our leadership team makes recommendations to the board, and then our board, which is a 12-member body of volunteers. 10 of them are EAB parents, 2 of them are EAB alums, and they volunteer hundreds of hours to the care of the school. And again, they take no pay for that work, and they take their role very responsibly. And they are reviewing the school opening modes every 3 weeks. And before I exit, there were several of you that asked, when would you make the transition to your blended learning? And the answer is when the number of new cases in the federal district is no longer high and rising day by day. We need a period of time for the curve to taper off and then begin descending down before we can safely make that move. So with that, I think Leslie will be up next.
Good evening, everyone. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Leslie Tate. I'm the Deputy Head of School and Director of Teaching and Learning. My background in education is really in elementary education, but I've been working in these American international schools, pre-K to 12 now for the last 8 years. So it's my pleasure to be talking to you tonight. It seems very strange that I'm not actually looking at you, but I'm sure you're there. So yes, I'm going to talk about distance learning and what it's going to look like from Monday onwards. I would have to begin by saying that we are really committed to providing the very, very best possible distance learning program that will meet the needs of every EAB student. And that's really important to us. It's important when we're face-to-face, and it's equally as important under distance learning. And when I say the needs of each EAB student, I do mean the academic needs, but I also mean the social and emotional needs. As you'll know, many of you, wellness is really important to us at EAB. So being aware of what your child needs academically, but also socially and emotionally as well. We have been following the feedback from you, from our teachers, and from our parents, that is you, from our students, very, very closely. While we were in distance learning between March and June, we had feedback then, over the break, and even now, the questions that you've put to us for this webinar tonight. So we are very, very interested in that feedback and have been making plans according to the responses. As Ellen has already said, and I'll say it again, the strength of EAB is really in the quality of our teachers. And I'm so impressed with the effort that they're going to create an amazing distance learning program for your children. So I feel good about that, and I feel that we're ready now to, I think it's my next point coming, we're ready now to launch what we're calling Distance Learning 2.0 for EAB. As Ellen said, we have learned a lot from our experience back in between March and June, and we have definitely decided to enhance the program that we did then in many different ways. The first aspect that I'll speak to is that in ECP and the lower school, if you have children in those divisions, you will see increased direct live teaching and learning experiences for your child via Zoom every day. In fact, we are saying as a minimum, your children will be receiving 4 sessions of direct live teaching experiences during the day. And that's a minimum. Many of them will receive more. And those experiences will be with your child's classroom teacher, their Portuguese or PLL teacher, their music, art, or PE teacher, depending on the rotation. So our ECP and lower school children are going to be very busy. Apart from those direct teaching and learning experiences that they'll have, they will also be involved in small groups and one-on-one sessions, which we know really help personalise the delivery of our education. Our commitment at the moment for all of our school is relationships between children and teachers really matter. It's the beginning of the school year now, whereas in our past distance learning program, it was towards the end of the school. Your children need to have a direct experience with their teachers, and they need to do that live, because we know that relationships really, really matter. And so we want to start the school year with positive relationships that come from direct interactions. For our younger children as well, in ECP and lower school, we're working with the technology to make sure that there are fewer transitions for our younger children. We do want our younger ones to be able to manage the distance learning as independently as possible. And we realised in the past that when they had to move from program to program and find their way back, that was extremely challenging for our younger people. So we want to make fewer transitions for them so that they can almost manage this on their own, depending on their age. In the middle school and high school, we'll continue with the set daily schedule because we believe that that worked very well. However, with that schedule, I think it's my next point, we're going to spread the schedule out more across a longer day for the middle and high school students because we want to allow for more breaks. We knew that actually having continuous screen time for 4 hours or so wasn't actually that healthy for our students. So we want to make sure that their well-being is taken care of by having more breaks. But we also need to allow them to have time between classes to basically do their homework or their independent work that they need to get done outside of the classroom. The middle school and high school students as well, or the teachers, will be, as they were, involved in whole class direct teaching, but this will also be followed up with small group and individualized sessions with those middle school and high school teachers, all via Zoom. As Ellen said, we know now that distance learning was challenging, very challenging for parents and for people working with small children at home in particular. We're working out all sorts of systems where we can offer you as much continuous support as possible. So making sure that if parents have technical issues or they have pedagogical issues or they just need help, we will be there for you. We really want to centralise our information. That will be important for parents, I'm sure, which means that knowing exactly which Zoom link for which teacher, which tech service each teacher will offer, and when their office hours and all that sort of information will be centralised so that it can be easily found. And the other thing that we learned from your feedback is that you really need us to be communicating in a very coherent way. So not lots of different forms of communication, but one form that each division follows and making it as coherent as possible. So we're working very hard on creating that type of system. As I said, it's the beginning of the school year, so different from where we were in March. Our big focus next week in particular, and the next 3 weeks really, is going to be on how are we going to build community? How are we going to do that in each classroom? How are we going to do that across grade levels and divisions? And how are we going to do that as a whole school? Because we truly want every EAB student to feel that they belong at EAB and that this is their home. How we're going to do that is through these personalised connections, getting to know each other, our teachers getting to know their students, students getting to know their teachers, students getting to know other students, and our teachers and ourselves need to get to know you as mums and dads. Next week, we'll be offering meet and greet type catch-up conferences, which will happen next week, and we'll be sending out a booking mechanism for this to occur so that every single family, every single student is alongside their mum and dad making a connection in lower school with their classroom teacher, in middle and high school with their flex leader. So you will hear about that very soon. It's the beginning of the school year, as I said, and so also ensuring that we're building technical competence with all of our students in an age-appropriate manner. So that sometimes we can assume a student knows exactly what we're asking of them in the tech world, but maybe they don't. So we're not going to assume that anymore. We're going to make sure that we deliberately teach it and that everybody is as competent, as capable as they possibly can be. And then the final aspect, and Ellen alluded to it already, is that we will be spending some time at the beginning of the year assessing your child's academic levels using the MAP testing or MAP assessment regime, but also teachers will be assessing academic levels in other ways, but it will be by direct connection via Zoom. As Ellen also said, we know that distance learning is not the most ideal situation. As teachers, it's not ideal for us as our chosen method of delivery. But we're committed to providing the very, very best distance learning program that we can do in this environment. And I'm sure you're going to be extremely pleased with it. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Liz Sullivan, and I'm the business director at the American School of Brasilia. And my main responsibilities at the school is the operation of the logistics, operations, and the finances of the school. So we're going to get a little bit into that. And I want to reassure you that my team and I, we work very closely with the educational and academic part of the school to ensure that our campus and also the resources of the school are directly aligned with the academic side of the school, okay? So as Alan and Leslie have been saying throughout this presentation, we are fully committed to the health and safety of our community. So we are looking at data from the GDF to track the trends of the COVID inside our community. And we isolated where our student population live, most of our students live, and it's mostly in the Plano Piloto, which is the central part of Brasilia. And the active cases right now corresponds to 24% inside that area. But having said that, it's also important for us to look at what's happening in the federal district. And the reason why is because many of our staff members live in the outskirts of Brasilia, and they depend on public transportation to come to school, to work. So in Brasilia, we have around 16,000 active cases, and we're still trending on the rise of cases each day. So only today we had another 2,200 cases in Brasilia confirmed. And to get into our presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about EAB. As an institution. So EAB is it's a not-for-profit institution, and the main identity for that to be a nonprofit is that any surplus that we have at the end of any given school year needs to be directly reinvested back into the school, and it's not distributed as profit to anybody. Okay, and this goes very along the lines of how the school is governed and how our board is composed. So they are composed of individual members of our community. So parents that have their kids at EAB, or other members of the EAB community as alumni, for example. And they volunteer their time and expertise to ensure that we are fulfilling our mission and vision, okay? And board members have no financial gain. And inside the board, we also have committees to help us align our mission and vision. And one of those committees is the finance committee. So, and they ensure the sustainability of the school over a long period of time. So now we're going to go a little bit into the financial overview of the school. And it's very important for us to give you this information, which is our student and faculty composition. As Alan and Leslie said, the high quality of our teachers are key for the success of the school and for the education, the quality of our education. And so we benchmark ourselves with other schools in Brazil, and also with all the other schools around the world, okay? And our staff, our faculty, we have international teachers and national teachers, and they're half and half. So half of our composition for our faculty is made up of international teachers, which are our foreign hires. And the student composition is also very important for us. And in our school is the second most diverse school in terms of nationalities within the ASB contest of schools. And we have about 38 nationalities in our population right now for the kids. Now a little bit about our operations, and I know that this was a question. We had a couple of questions in regards to our tuition. 83% of our cost goes directly into paying salaries and benefits for faculty and staff. And out of that, 2/3 of the 83% is for the staff that is directly impacting education for the kids. So this would be the teachers, teacher assistants, and the academic support that we have in the school. And a very small amount goes to utilities like water and electricity. That doesn't, that's not even 1% of our annual budget is allocated to that, okay? Go to the next one. And then another huge impact that we have in our composition of cost is the exchange rate that directly affects the school. And to give you a whole picture of what happened last year during the school period, which our budget begins on July 1st and it ends on June 30th, we assumed way back in March, exchange rate of 3.8, an average exchange rate of 3.8 for the year 2000, for the school year 2019-20. And on July 1st, that exchange rate was at 370, and then we ended the year at 570, at 547, and with an average increase of an average dollar rate of 447. This had a huge impact on our budget for last year. The increase between July and June was 48%, and in our overall budget, it had an impact of 18%, from 380 to 447. Now, during the school year of 2020-2021, we made our budget assumptions back in May, and this was when the budget was approved and the tuition was sent out to parents. And this exchange rate had an impact on our costs and expenses of 30%. But the board has approved to allocate from our emergency reserves to help offset the foreign exchange rate. And so we didn't have to directly bill parents for this 30% increase in our expenses for this year. So in order to apply the minimum increase in tuition and to maintain the high quality of education and adequate resources to maintain our financial balance, we had to increase tuition to the terms that we sent out in May. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the COVID investments that we've made during the summertime, and how you're going to see the changes in our campus once we're ready to have the kids back in school. First at the blended learning, and then face-to-face. So we have invested in infrastructure, materials, and equipments, and we have made a lot of research in what would be the adequate equipment, materials, and the infrastructure that we would invest in. And so you're going to see that later on. We're going to break it down for you on where did we equip the school to adapt to the COVID-19. And we also invested in maintenance services and contracts throughout the year to ensure that the hygiene and sanitation procedures are being met, and also on technology. So the campus adaptations. First, we're going to talk a little bit about how the logistics of the entrances of the school are going to work out. And so the number one change that we're going to make is that we're going to isolate the ECP area, and that's going to have an exclusive entrance. So the main entrance of the campus, which most of you are aware of, is where it's mostly used as the drop-off and pickup area. We're going to extend that to another gate that's right in front of the auditorium, and we're going to fence ECP in. So ECP is going to have an exclusive drop-off and pickup area, and so no kids from other departments can come into the ECP entrance, okay? The main entrance at the front of the school, we are going to highly recommend that it's used by upper school, and in the back gate is used by lower school. But of course, we know that many of our parents have siblings across the sections, so it is okay to drop your kids off all at the same entrance, except for ECP. ECP is going to be for ECP kids only. Another investment that we are making this year, and this is along the lines of that have already been asked for by parents and also by our lower school, is to cover the ECP Playground. So this is being done by the school during the summertime, and it's going to be a multi-use area, not only for playground, but it's also going to be used for other purposes if the teachers decide to have any activities that are outside. And with this, this is going to be a permanent investment. This structure is going to stay put even after we're past the COVID. Our lower courts and upper courts will also be covered for the time being. These are not going to be permanent structures. This is just for the period where we are going to have to adapt the school to have the kids back, either through blended learning, and then when we're ready to have a full face-to-face. And this area is going to be a multiple purpose area too, that's going to be used by teachers, and also when the kids are ready to leave the school at the end of the day. So this is, we're going to line chairs there with the distancing so that kids can be called upon when parents arrive at school to pick them up. In the classrooms and offices, we're using acrylic protection. For upper school, they are gonna have the acrylic protection going across the tables. And to maintain the distancing, the correct distancing between the kids, we're only gonna allow 2 kids per table. And then all the offices and support areas of the school are also gonna have the acrylic protection to ensure the safe distancing. At school, we already have all the hygiene and sanitation stations, which are the green dots that you see there. But we're gonna add more stations to the school, and they're all gonna be no touch. We have heavily invested in this part for the bathrooms and faucets and all the alcohol and gel. They're all going to be no touch. And you're going to see this a little bit later on a video that we have provided for you. You're going to see how that's going to work when the kids come back. So we're going to talk a little bit about the biosafety and what we're doing to make sure that we are doing the minimum requirements to attend all the guidelines from the FGDS, from CINEP, and using other references, but we're going above that and beyond. We're writing a full manual of procedures using the procedures that are done in pediatric hospitals, and not that we're going to be using the same products that they use, but we're going to do the same checklist. And in this checklist, our team, our maintenance team and cleaning staff, they're being trained to make sure that they follow a specific cleaning procedure for each part of the school. And it is very important for our community to know that we're also separating our maintenance teams in little pods. So they're working as groups of 3 and 4, and they're always going to be working together in one area of the school. So they're not going across all sections. So that's very important for you to know, that they're going to be always in the same area, cleaning the same spaces, and are going to be supervised by other members of our community. And now you're gonna watch a video that it's gonna be represent some of the changes that we've made, but also seeing how kids are gonna be able to come back to school as safely as possible when we're ready to return to our campus.
So before we start, I'm gonna ask Monica to help me with the Brazilian parents, telling them to unmute the original audio so they can hear the video, and we'll start in a second.
To best ensure the health and safety of the entire EAB community, we will open the school year with 3 weeks of distance learning. Rest assured, however, that we are working very hard to prepare for a healthy return to face-to-face learning. This video will highlight the changes you will see when we are back on campus. Upon arrival to EAB, all students will go through a temperature check before they leave their cars. At all entrances, students will find special hygiene mats to disinfect their shoes. No-touch biometric checks will be used to control the access to the school. Once on campus, teacher assistants will be waiting for lower school students to safely take them to class. All EAB faculty, students, and staff will be required to wear masks at all times while on campus. Children in the ECP will be provided face shields to best ensure the well-being of our youngest learners. Hand sanitizer totems will be positioned throughout the school to keep a healthy and clean environment. Each lower school student will have their own individual table with their name on it. Every table in the upper school will have an acrylic protection to help students feel safe and focused on learning. To make sure that everything happens according to all safety protocols, we have developed a sanitation procedure checklist, which includes the handling of food. All meals will be served in the classrooms to avoid unnecessary contact and exposure. Along with increased cleaning and sanitizing by the EAB maintenance team, we've contracted a professional cleaning company to frequently disinfect the campus. To avoid contact with surfaces, all restrooms have been equipped with no-touch sensors. At the end of classes, lower school students will be accompanied by a teacher assistant to meet their parents. In order to ensure a safe and orderly exit from the campus, all families will be provided a sign with the student's name to help EAB security and the teaching assistants guide the children to their cars. The EAB leadership, faculty, and staff look forward with great anticipation to the day we can safely welcome our students back to our campus and continue our work to be learners inspiring learners, to be inquisitive in life, principled in character, and bold in vision.
All right, well, I'd just like to thank Rafael and his team for putting together this webinar. It was a complicated process. And I'd like to thank our leadership team who have been working over the holidays every day and trying to prepare the best education for your children that we possibly can offer. So folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting your children in our care. We'll do our very best to help them grow during the course of this year. We look forward to seeing you again on campus, as the video showed. And please, if you didn't feel that your questions were answered, please check with us. I know one question I meant to answer was, is there technology to loan if a family needs a laptop? And the answer is yes. Just email support@eabdf.org and we will arrange that for you. And please reach out to us if you have questions. I saw some questions about specific parts of the school, the IB program, SAT, and college prep. We're all on that this year, and we'll be communicating specifically to families of those age levels in the coming days. So thank you again for being with us, and have a great rest of the evening. Ciao.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Leslie and Liz. Thanks everyone for participating. And as Alan said, we have these channels for any questions. The division principals are leading more specific questions on the next few days. And thanks for joining us.